Hello, welcome back. How are you feeling today? Okay. I see. Okay. Okay, well, this is our 6th session today, and today we're going to be looking at those negative thoughts, those thoughts that are responsible for making you feel bad. So hopefully we can begin to make some changes there. Now, as always, if you want a little reminder of what we spoke about last time, I made a recording of our previous sessions and you can watch them here. They should pop up on the screen. Okay, but before we do that, do you have any thoughts or worries or questions maybe about what we talked about last time? Okay. Okay. So that's interesting. I think that we'll be able to answer a lot of those questions in the session today. So let's begin with how your week has been. Now, you keep me a diary where you record how you're feeling at the end of every day. So maybe let's begin by looking at that. Is that it there? Okay, can I take a look? Okay. Okay, I see. Okay, so it looks like this week has been quite a difficult week. And I can see that you've also been recording your thoughts, as we talked about last week. How did you find doing that, getting hold of those? I think we call them negative automatic thoughts that sit behind your feelings. Yeah, I think that's very accurate. It is. It's tricky. It's tricky to get hold of those thoughts, particularly at the beginning. Our feelings are very overwhelming and they are designed to be that way, to grab our attention. We need to pay attention to our emotions, our feelings. They're there to help us navigate through life. And if they were soft and gentle, we'd ignore them. But the consequence of that is they do tend to overwhelm everything else. So accessing those thoughts, the thoughts that are sitting behind them, that are triggering them, can be difficult to begin with. But like anything, as we practice, it does become easier. So we'll continue to do that. It does, however, look as if you've done a good job. I think there's definitely something that we can use here. Okay, so let's look a little bit more at these negative thoughts. Okay, so if we're going to take our thoughts, particularly our negative thoughts, seriously, if we are going to allow them to dictate how we feel and what we do, it's really important that they are accurate and that they are helpful. And that's an important distinction, because sometimes our negative thoughts can be quite accurate, but they're not necessarily particularly helpful. Think about it this way. If you're trying to escape from the top floor of a burning building, it would be very accurate to think, I could die doing this. But it wouldn't be a particularly helpful focus. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So what we're going to start to do, as you get hold of your negative thoughts, is we're going to start to evaluate them, evaluate their accuracy and also their helpfulness. And if we discover that they aren't both accurate and helpful, we're going to look at replacing them with alternative thoughts that are accurate and helpful, and that will help to improve your mood, help to balance it. Okay, so we're going to begin that today. We're going to start by looking at a type of thinking process called a thinking filter. Sometimes they're called thinking errors or thinking mistakes. Psychologists often favour cognitive distortions, but psychologists do have a tendency to overname things. Okay, so now these are thinking patterns that we all engage in. They are, I suppose, designed by nature to make our thinking more streamlined, to make our information processing more efficient. And in the short term, they certainly do that. But over the longer term, in the process of efficiency, the process of filtering out, some important details can be lost. Details that could really influence the way that we feel, help us to feel better, calmer, more balanced, more confident. And the thing with these thinking filters is it seems to be that when we're feeling bad, we use them more. So when we are feeling more anxious or more depressed, we tend to use thinking filters more. I'm going to draw you a diagram. I sometimes think that seeing something visually helps to clarify it. I'm just going to get a different pen here, and I'll give you this diagram to take away so you can just sit and listen. Okay, so this represents, I suppose, your mind. And within there sits all the beliefs and the ideas that you currently have. Okay, so when something happens in the outside world, something that we need to make sense of, it arrives at the edge of our consciousness, and then that's when the filtering occurs. The information is maybe some information is dismissed, or maybe it is slightly changed to fit in with what is already in our minds, to be neatly, so it is, I suppose, so it can be neatly packed away efficiently. So the filtering happens. It's quite here. So as I say, in the short term, this filtering process is designed to help us. But, as you can see from this diagram, some information is lost or changed. And that's fine if we are feeling okay. But as soon as we are no longer feeling okay, as soon as we are experiencing some distress or discomfort, it makes sense to check out if some information is being filtered out, information that could help us. Okay. So Does that make sense? Okay, good. I'm going to give you some examples because human beings are very similar and we all seem to use the same thinking filters. So I've got a list here of 5 the most common thinking filters, and I'll give this to you to take away. But before I do that, I'm going to read them out to you. You can just sit and listen, and you can maybe take this away and turn it over in your mind during the week. Okay, so one of the most common thinking filters is something called all or nothing thinking or black and white thinking. And it says here, you see things in black and white categories. If a situation falls short of perfect, you see it as a total failure. When a young woman on a diet ate a spoonful of ice cream, she told herself, "I've blown my diet completely." This thought upset her so much that she gobbled down an entire quart of ice cream. Okay. Another one, overgeneralization. You see a single negative event, such as a romantic rejection or a career reversal, as a never-ending pattern of defeat by using words such as always or never when you think about it. For example, a depressed salesman became terribly upset when he noticed bird dung on the windshield of his car. He told himself, "Just my luck. Birds are always crapping on my car." Okay, this next one is called mental filtering. Probably what you'll notice is some of these are quite similar. Don't get too caught up in exactly the filter that you're using, and sometimes it's enough just to know that you are filtering out some information. It's enough to help you to step back a little bit. But anyway, mental filtering. You pick out a single negative detail and dwell on it exclusively, so that your vision of all reality becomes darkened, like the drop of ink that discolours the beaker of water. For example, you receive many positive comments about your presentation to a group of associates at work, but one of them says something mildly critical. You obsess about his reaction for days and ignore all the positive feedback. Are any of these starting to resonate with you, to sound familiar? Good. Discounting the positive. Okay. You reject excuse me. You reject positive experiences by insisting that they don't count. If you do a good job, you may tell yourself that it wasn't good enough, or that anyone could have done as well. Discounting the positive takes the joy out of life and makes you feel inadequate and unrewarded. Okay, one more. This one's called jumping to conclusions. You interpret things negatively when there are no facts to support your conclusions. One example of this is something called mind reading. Without checking it out, you arbitrarily conclude that someone is reacting to you negatively. And fortune telling, this is a very common one. You predict that things will turn out badly. Before a test, you may tell yourself, "I'm really going to blow it. What if I flunk?" If you're depressed, you may tell yourself, "I will never get better." Okay. So, take this away, have a little think about them, turn them over in your mind. And when you're keeping your diary, at the end of every day, after you have recorded your mood, given it a rating on a scale of 0 to 10, and then accessed any thoughts that have come up. I think we said to access thoughts when your emotion rises above a 5 or a 6. See if you can identify which one of those thinking filters you're using, and it may well be that you're using a couple of them. And we'll look at it again next week. Okay. Do you have any questions about that? Okay. Good. Okay, so we'll meet the same time next week. It was good to talk to you today. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.